Hey guys, it's George. Okay, so I'm going to work on FroKnowsPhoto's Raw Edit 49. I'm going to do a two-part video. First part will be the sunset shot. The second part will be the Polaroid shot. So let's get started. I got some interesting thoughts about this sunset shot. I'm going to show something that can be done in Photoshop that's pretty interesting when you're working with images like this that have when you expose for the sky, you know, the ground gets a little dark sometimes, the horizon down below. So what we can do is do it in two parts and essentially develop in camera raw two different parts of the image, exposing once, basically developing once for the sky and developing once for the ground. It should be pretty interesting, so let's get started. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do in camera raw, I'm going to enable the lens profile just to clean up any vignetting and any distortion that lens might actually have. Looks like he used a Sigma, which is a pretty cool lens. Next I'm going to do is I might give it just a little bit of sharpening, mask it out so that it's just the edges. Okay, so let's check out white balance. I think it could be warmer. Let's try cloudy. Ooh, I like that shade. Something about cloudy. It's got a nice pinkish, but still got some blue in here. So I'm going to work on the sky exposure first. You know what? It looks a little crooked, so I'm going to use my straighten tool, just kind of the angle tool, and make sure I get it nice and straight, the horizon line. Okay, so that should straighten it out. Let's see, what can we do here? Exposure. I actually want to lower the exposure so that the sky has more color, but I want to contrast it up. So I really want that sky to pop. I'm not worried about the bottom part of the image down here getting really dark right now because I'm really only working on the sky right now. I'm going to bump up the blacks a little bit. What does fill light do? Maybe a little bit of fill, but I don't think too much recovery. Maybe a little recovery. Let's see, exposure. No, I kind of want to keep a little bit of that. See if we can. See, I kind of like that, making it a little pinkish, and then maybe a little warmth. Yeah, see, that's looking pretty cool. I think to start off with, I think that's going to be pretty cool. Let's see, maybe if I add a little clarity and a little vibrance, a little saturation. A little saturation might be too much. I'm just kind of playing around, guys, so bear with me here. Let's see my curves, see if I can maybe lower the highlights so it's not so blown out there. But maybe, see, it's starting to look pretty cool. And remember, I'm just doing the sky right now. And then I'm probably going to do the rest of it in Photoshop itself. But so instead of just open image, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Shift and open as an object. What that'll do is it'll open up the image as a smart object, which will always let me go back to my camera raw. All right, so it looks like it did straighten out the horizon pretty well. So okay, that's one of the things I was looking at. So now let me show you what I'm going to do. If you were to take this layer right here and just duplicate it, right, you now have two smart objects, and if you change one smart object, it'll update both smart objects, which is not what we want here. So I'm going to actually delete that. What I actually want here is I want to control click on this layer and get this dialog box, and I want a new smart object via copy. And what that'll do is it'll give me a second smart object, but the actual smart object part of it is independent of the other one. So if I change the smart object in the copy, it won't change the one in the sky. So I'm just going to name them sky and ground, just so we know the difference. Now let me show you what I'm going to do. So now that I have these two, right now they're identical, but if I go into this and I double click my smart object, It'll open up Camera Raw again, and it'll keep my settings that I'm at, but now I'm actually going to change it, because what I want to do is I actually want to open up the ground. So now I'm kind of working on the ground part, and see how the sky's going to get blown out, but that's okay because I already have the other layer that has the sky part of it. So let me see if I can work on the bottom part and get it nice and open. And it's a little pink, which I'm going to bring down a little bit, maybe get a little warmer. Yeah, and I might have to do some color adjustments to match the sky and the ground later on, but it's already starting to look pretty cool. I mean, I can see the ground. Everything should have kept my lens profile, it should have kept my angle, everything, it should keep all that stuff, so not worried about any of that. Now here is where I can kind of go back, and this will be fun because I can work on, it'll be two separate images, and then once I mask them out, then I'll do overall corrections and stuff. It should look pretty cool. Let's see if we can get this to look pretty cool. So I'm only looking at the bottom part. Remember that. It's kind of a big part of the way I'm working right now, because we definitely don't want to worry about the sky. See, the sky is completely blown out. But again, now I hit OK, and what you'll see is my top layer here has this new, but the old one still has the sky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this top layer and I'm going to create a mask, and I'm going to come in, and with black, hitting the X key will change my foreground and background color. And what I want to do is I want to take a gradient from black to nothing, and I want to do that. See, so now all of a sudden I'm going to have to obviously come in closer and work on this. Make sure you just kind of go until you find the right spot. It should look pretty cool. I mean, see, that really exposed for that sky. So the top part is now the ground, and the bottom part is sky. And you can always take this layer and turn down the opacity if it's too bright, just to try to get it to match a little bit better. So like, I think somewhere around there looks pretty realistic. It's not HDR, so don't think of it that way, but it's essentially doing what people try to do in HDR without using HDR, and I really like this method better because, and you can see that, man, it's got kind of a interesting grain pattern. But okay, so now we have an image that I feel has both exposures pretty well, and now we can work on top of this. The way I would work is I would take these two layers, duplicate them, and merge them so that I could basically turn these two off, and I now have one kind of image. But I always like to keep my layers underneath just in case I want to make some changes. You never know. So I always tend to leave what I call maximum revisability, so that I can always make changes. First thing I'm going to try to do is I'm going to do gradient map. Black and white looks kind of cool, but I'm going to stick to color with this one. And basically I'm going to make a black and white gradient map, and I'm going to switch the blend mode to luminosity. And it should just give it a little bit of punch. Yeah, see, it darkened it a little bit, but made it a little punchier. And I'm probably going to lower that opacity somewhere in the 70s, 75 maybe. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do another gradient map. This one is actually going to be a color, and I have some gradient maps saved as presets that I use all the time. So I'm going to use my kind of excuse me, kind of my orange preset. Obviously I'm not going to use it like that, so I usually, what I'll do is I'll put it on overlay and then lower the opacity way down. I mean, this is, I just want to give it a little bit of warmth. Somewhere in the 10% should be okay. Let's see, that looks pretty good. I kind of like that warm color. I feel like I need to lighten overall, so I'm going to make a curve. I'm going to make this curve and I'm going to lighten it overall. I think that's kind of cool. This area where the sun is at, pressing the F key, by the way, gets rid of, it gives you your different views. It gives you window view, it gives you this view, which basically has everything, but you can move it up and down, and then F one more time will give you just the image. It gets rid of all your palettes so you can look at it. Let's see, what else? I'm going to pause the video for a second. About that, I had to take a phone call. Okay, so next thing I want to do is I want to fake light coming from the sky. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a gradient, select a color, you know, somewhere in the yellows. Oh, okay, I need to make a new layer. Sunlight is my new layer. Okay, so basically I'm going to take somewhere in the orangey, yellowy colors. And what I want to do is, and I'm not sure yet, but I'm trying to create an effect that's getting pretty popular here. So I'm going to use a gradient in the round shape. And I'm going to just bring it in, and it's this kind of light leak layer. And hopefully I can get this to look the way I want it to. It's pretty popular right now to do all these kind of light effects. It's interesting because old cameras, you know, this used to be like a way that old cameras used to let some light in that would leak in, and it's becoming kind of a popular look right now. I'm sure camera companies right now are dying because, you know, they've been working so hard to make everything so crystal clear, and then people are just, you know, trying to make it look old school and vintage. So I always find that kind of funny. You know, I think I'm going to sharpen the whole thing. And some of you know that I like to use high pass. So what I'll do is I'm going to close those layers off for a second. I'm going to take this layer of the image and duplicate it, and I'm going to go to filter, other, high pass. And 10 is way too much. I usually do like 2 or 3. I'm going to try 3 just to really sharpen it. Basically that creates a gray layer with enhancements for the lines. It finds the edges and it creates some, and when you put it on overlay, it actually sharpens the whole image, and I'll show you a before and after. So it just gives it that sharpness, and you gotta be careful because sometimes if you go too far, it will look really fake. So I usually lower my opacity a little bit, but that looks pretty cool. With landscapes, you have a little more play because you kind of want them to be nice and sharp. Okay, so let's bring in that light leak layer back. And, you know, I wonder if I can do a secondary light leak from the other side. You know, like if we had some kind of reflected light from over here or something. Could be kind of interesting. Maybe Command U brings up the hue saturation for that layer, and I can pretty quickly change the hue to any color I want. And let's see, what would look cool here? No, I don't think so. I think I'm just going to leave it, and I wonder if I just put it like on overlay, or just to give it, it's almost like reflected light, but it's, you know, it's actually not. Could look kind of cool. So yeah, see, I kind of like that. It's just adding a little bit of life over here. Let's see, what else do we need here? I don't know, it's looking pretty good to me. What do you guys think? Oh, I gotta bring back my layers. See, now it really just like brought that contrast up, and I like it. I'm liking it. I feel like I'm almost there, guys. You know, I always do my noise layer. I'm going to do a levels layer. I want to see what happens if I brighten up the midtones, just to see almost like a washed out color. No, I don't like that. Ooh, a darker color is kind of interesting, but I think I'm just going to leave it, delete that. I wonder if I do another one of this layer, the luminosity could be really contrasty. No, I think I'm gonna stick with this. I think I'm kind of liking the way this is looking. You know, I could, hold on, I could bring a little blue back into the sky with a curve and then work on my blue and pump up the blues a little bit. See, that's kind of interesting. I'm not sure I want it on everything. I don't know. I mean, that looks kind of cool. Maybe I can lower the opacity just a bit. I don't know. That's kind of interesting. Let's see. Bring this back a little bit. You know, I think that looks pretty good. Now I'm just going to do my overall noise layer, which I always do. I feel like it'll break up any, you know, images sometimes have, like, some of these cameras still have some of this kind of, I don't know what it is. It's just guck. You know, it's almost like pixelation, but, you know, this is a raw format, so it shouldn't have that. But, you know, with a noise layer, what I do is I'll fill in to gray using Shift-Delete, brings up my fill, and I'll do 50% gray, hit OK, and I'll put my blending mode on overlay, and then go to Filter, Noise, Add Noise, and you'll see what happens. That's way too much noise. I usually do monochromatic so it doesn't give me any, but, you know, like this is at 12%. This is way too much. 3 is more like it. 3 or 4, maybe 5 is where you want to be at. That looks pretty good. Wow, I'm kind of liking it. I'm digging it. It's a little, it's kind of fun. Let's see if I can just leak a little bit more light. I'm kind of liking that light. I don't know. I got a light leak kick right now. It's kind of fun. I just wanted to do something a little different. That looks pretty good. I think I'm going to stick with that, guys. All right. Well, thank you very much, and stay tuned for part 2. Click somewhere. I'll put it somewhere to link to part 2. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.